Tuka Memori was treated like trash by everyone until one day his entire class was summoned as heroes by the goddess Visis. However, he received the weakest rank, so the goddess threw him into a dungeon, vowing revenge. He used this to level up and became an expert in the delicious. It all begins with Tuka dreaming about his childhood when he was abused by his father. He begs him to let go, but his father continues to beat him. Tuka wakes up startled and finds the class bully, Arbish Shugo, harassing the class president, Ayaka. Everyone pretends not to notice the bullying taking place. Tuka observes how even during the academy field trip, he can't get a break from his life. He politely tells Shugo to stop bothering Ayaka. Angrily, Shugo calls him a fool who's desperate to smell that flower, which puts Tuka into silent mode. Then the future dance king, Takuto Kirihara, calmly tells Shugo to stop bothering Ayaka. He immediately returns the book to Ayaka and half-heartedly apologizes for bullying her by taking a seat. He then begins bullying another student named Yasu. Suddenly, everyone finds themselves teleported to another world. An ugly woman welcomes them all to the kingdom of Alien and introduces herself as the goddess Visis. She reveals the reason for her summoning them to fight the great demon emperor. Takuto asks Visis what will happen if they don't do as she says, prompting the goddess to reveal that to reverse the summoning ritual, they need a magical item called the evil element, and they can only obtain it by destroying the demon emperor's heart or when he perishes within the crystal of the necklace she wears. Realizing that all options are equally bad, Shugo yells at Visis that he needs to return to his world to watch the movie summaries. Ignoring the whole thing, Visis calls the students together to see if they have an affinity for the element and will grant them magical talents. Shugo is quickly told he has a high affinity for magic, which puts him at A rank, inflating his ego enough that someone could climb and jump off him. Takuto's turn. He surpasses Shugo and shatters the crystal with his overwhelming magical energy. Visis applauds and reveals that Takuto is an S-rank hero. Ayaka tests her magical affinity and also shatters the crystal. The goddess announces that they now have 2 S-rank heroes among them. Itsuki goes next and is revealed to be an A-rank hero. Then his sister Hijiri tests his energy and he turns out to be the 3rd S-rank hero. Finally, Tuka steps up and the crystal begins to glow purple. Confused, Tuka asks Visis where she is standing, but the goddess ignores her like your crush is ignoring you. Then Yasu steps in front of the crystal, and the goddess surprisingly reveals that he is the strongest of them all. After everyone finishes, Visis calls Tuka forward. She announces to everyone that Tuka was the lowest-ranked hero in the past. Low-ranking heroes had a history of harassing high-ranking heroes, so a law was devised to eliminate undesirable scum like him. Fortunately for him, the goddess allows him to keep his head, but he must prove his worth by surviving among the ruins. If he lives, the kingdom will not bother him, and he can continue his life as an ordinary citizen of Aelion. When Tuka asks if the ruins are dangerous, Visis casually reveals that many prisoners and heroes have been sent to the ruins to die, which is why the place is literally called the Ruins of Waste. Terrified for his life, Tuka tells the goddess that he actually possesses an ability called Abnormal State. Visis snorts and reveals that an abnormal ability is useless. In other words, he falls into the category called Fault Frame. Tuka reminds him that she was the one who summoned him, but Takuto tells her to shut her mouth and get over it. Suddenly, the strongest person in the room, Yasu, takes notice. Tuka asks him for a helping hand, which reminds her of how she used to help Yasu whenever he was bullied. Tuka smiles at him, only for Yasu to mock him for being disrespectful to the important people in the room. At that moment, Yasu realizes that he has no friends here. A circle appears, and a miserable Tuka finds himself inside it, accepting his fate. Out of nowhere, Ayaka yells at everyone not to treat their classmate like that. In a matter of seconds, Visis unleashes a magical attack on Ayaka, knocking her unconscious, and calls Tuka a loser who should have been swallowed whole by his mother. Tuka tries to attack the goddess, but she easily deflects the attack. One by one, his classmates mock him, relishing his misery, which triggers memories of his past for Tuka. After enduring so much abuse from everyone, Tuka finally stops pretending to be good and tells Visis that once he returns, he will commit even greater atrocities against her than the great artist from Germany ever did. And so, Tuka is sent to the ruins to die alone. In the darkness, he quickly realizes that the ruins are not safe when he is attacked by a monster. The chase begins, but the emotion Tuka feels is not fear but anger and frustration. Finally, he turns around and shouts, "Paralyze!" which works on the monster, freezing it completely. Another monster relentlessly pursues him. He uses the Paralyze skill again, but this time, he combines it with another skill called Poison. Now fueled by rage, He declares he's ready to defeat anyone and anything. With no more MP than Tuka himself, he wonders what will happen once he uses it as well. The monster, named Minotaur, accelerates its attack, prompting Tuka to unleash his paralyzed skill once more. But to his dismay, the system informs him that he cannot use the same skill on an opponent twice. Luckily, he finds a sleep skill at his disposal, which he quickly uses on the monster. Shortly after, Tuka feels his head spinning, reminding him that he's low on energy. Before he can solve that problem, he's met by an army of monsters desperate to survive. He gives it his all to live. Tuka now suffers from extreme fatigue but refuses to give up. As the monster advances, the system suddenly boosts his level, allowing Tuka to recharge with a victorious smile. Tuka discovers he can now attack multiple monsters at once. After paralyzing them, he uses his poison ability, which helps him gain more aura points. Once this is done, Tuka checks her status and notices that her MP has increased. She also notices that her level directly impacts her inherent ability. Regaining her resolve, Tuka affirms to herself that she will survive the elimination ordeal. With that, she attempts to eliminate more monsters, but they flee. Realizing that this is no ordinary human, Tuka continues on her way and collects some useful items left behind by the fallen. Tuka then butchers the monsters and attempts to feast, but quickly discovers that monster meat tastes worse than your mom's spaghetti. Sighing, he lies down, completely overwhelmed by hunger. Tuka then notices his mana pouch, which is a bright purple. He grabs it and is thrilled to find Coca-Cola and a package of dried meat. Days pass as Tuka continues to survive by poisoning his prey, leveling up and feeding on any meat he can find. But slowly, exhaustion takes hold of him. Not just physically, but something much deeper. Memories of a grim childhood begin to haunt Tuka. He recalls how he once contemplated murdering his abusive parents until his aunt and uncle intervened, pulling him off a path of self-destruction by providing him with a loving home. He had tried to emulate them to find some semblance of normalcy, but after consuming substances beyond his comprehension, he admits he's beginning to fear himself. Even so, Tuka recognizes that survival leaves no room for doubt, and he must accept whatever version of himself this journey has forged. As he makes his way through the ruins, he encounters strange creatures, but instead of cowering in fear, he dispatches them even faster than before. He eventually finds a sealed room. When he channels his mana to open it, Tuka discovers the skeletons of two long-dead lovers. He silently hopes the man managed to get one last taste of pleasure, one that would rip his soul out and make his toes curl before he went completely mad. Once he finishes thinking about the dead couple, he begins searching through their belongings and finds jewelry that might prove useful once he reaches the surface. Tuka continues her search through room after room, taking everything she can from the dead until she reaches a special chamber that requires a greater amount of magic to unlock. Inside lies the corpse of a man who found no peace in either life or death. A note nearby reveals his identity: Anglin, the Great Sage, also known as the Hero of Darkness. Tuka recalls Vices telling Yasu about the dark hero Anglin, who lived a tormented life. The letter reveals that he was sent to the ruins when Vices no longer needed him. This fills Tuka with even more bitterness toward the goddess, making her realize that she is no better than the demon emperor. Searching through the wreckage, Tuka finds a book of forbidden knowledge, recipes for medicine and magical tools that could prove invaluable later. She also discovers a scroll of forbidden magic, though its language is beyond her comprehension. Even so, she believes that if the sage risked everything to bring it here, it must contain a powerful spell, perhaps enough to challenge the goddess herself. Between the pages, Tuka finds a warning about the Soul Eater, the creature responsible for claiming every life in these ruins. Shrugging, she moves on, offering silent prayers for the lost souls as she searches for a way out. Finally, Tuka arrives at a magically sealed door that requires a key. This means the Soul Eater is near. Tormented by anxiety, Tuka wonders what his chances are if the Hero of Darkness failed. Tuka soon spots a massive head mounted on the wall, clutching an orb that likely holds the key to freedom. Just as Tuka prepares to use his abilities, a laser slices through his hand, stopping him before he can react. The trap activates as soon as it detects any hostile intent with his injured hand, within a limited range. Tuka is left wondering how he can possibly fight back. Before he can find a solution, the walls begin to crumble, making him realize that the Soul Eater is coming for him. Nearby, a blonde woman flees from some unseen danger. Inside, the floating demon's head approaches and summons a mass of purple, viscous substance that takes the form of twisted, horrified humans, the souls of those who died there. The creature watches anxiously, waiting to see Tuka's reaction. Suddenly, The demon's face bursts through the wall, a differentiating screen ready to devour. Tuka paralyzes the fluid monsters and watches as the giant head revels in their suffering. He tries to poison the creature but suddenly hesitates. His conscience refuses to harm what remains of humanity, even if it's trapped in this monstrous form. He insists to himself that he is better than the monster he's fighting. The demon simply spews out more souls, intending to overwhelm him. Tuka retreats, silently pleading with the tortured spirits, while the demon revels in their desperation. As his resolve falters and despair consumes him, Tuka finally uses her paralyzing ability on the terrified demon. She explains how the creature was too absorbed in its sadistic pleasure and never let its guard down. Now the hunter becomes the hunted. Tuka mocks the demon's arrogance by leveling up. He reveals the truth. His entire life he has been pretending to be kind and normal, but now he intends to return tenfold all the cruelty he has endured. The poison courses through the demon, and as it weakens, Tuka provokes it by falling prey to a mere human. With the creature defeated and the trapped souls freed from their torment, Tuka levels up once more. The orbs of light from the freed spirits gather and thank her for surviving and ending the nightmare. Before vanishing, they deliver a final message: defeat the goddess at all costs. The hero of darkness appears one last time, urging Tuka to carry out this task. The spirits disappear, leaving Tuka alone with the orb, the key to the exit. She vows to herself that she will make the goddess pay. With her last breath, Tuka unlocks the exit door and steps into freedom, leaving the ruins behind. Meanwhile, the heroes of Vices are seen hunting various monsters to level up their skills, while the top heroes enjoy the hunt. Somewhere, an NPC named Kobato flinches at the sight of a monster. A girl named Asagi pats her on the back, reminding Kobato that if she doesn't hunt, she will be hunted. Kobato acknowledges Asagi's advice, but accidentally calls her by her last name, which, for some unconvincing reason, amuses Asagi. She then darkly tells Kobato that if she doesn't call her Asagi, she'll make sure most of her classmates treat her badly. Kobato trembles with intimidation, which makes Asagi revert to her sweet demeanor as she tells Kobato that she feels her class is falling apart. Soon after, when asked why, Asagi responds by pointing out how her classmates are selfish and snobbish, only caring about themselves. Furthermore, the ranking system will cause even more division, as the strong will pick on the weak. Having said that, Asagi urges Kobato to join her group, the Asagi group, so that when the time comes, she won't be treated like a minor character in Genshin Impact. Kobato just stands there while Asagi brings up the subject with her senpai, like snacks. Taking her silence as obedience, Asagi calls her other henchmen and tells Kobato to kill the chained monster, or else she'll end up like Tuka, forgotten forever. Left with no other option, Kobato raises her sword and slays the monster. Once Asagi is satisfied, Kobato bursts into tears, remembering a time when Tuka protected a stray cat. Elsewhere, Ayaka awakens and is brought before Vices, who begins a tearful drama to show Ayaka how she was forced to be cruel to Tuka, as the disposition of the losers is an important ritual in her realm. She also reveals that while Ayaka was afflicted with the disease, the heroes were ordered to kill monsters, and those who failed to complete this task were asked to leave. Not falling for the goddess's act, Ayaka bluntly tells her that she does not support what she is doing. Vices laugh as she claims she's known as a goddess because she's merciful, so she'll let Ayaka have a little fun. In response, Ayaka asks Vices to remove the banishment clause, and in exchange, she'll work twice as hard as other heroes to compensate for the weak. Vices smiles like a shrewd politician and tells Ayaka they should shake her hand, since they've just made a good deal. Reluctantly, Ayaka shakes her hand. But once she's out of Vices' sight, she notices how cold the goddess felt, like Edward Cullen's body. Meanwhile, somewhere in the dark forest, the blonde woman tries to escape a group of perverts who hate deodorant and believe soap is for the weak. Meanwhile, Tuka ventures deeper into the forest, realizing she needs a sword that can serve as her shield and is threatening enough to harm her enemies. On her way, she encounters a group of slimes bullying a smaller slime. This reminds her of herself, so she quickly intervenes and paralyzes the bullying slimes. Then, using non-lethal poison, she repels them, and once the innocent slime is safe, Tuka congratulates him for standing up to his bullies, wishes him well in life, and resumes her journey. Unbeknownst to him, the slime continues to follow him, sighing. Tuka finally acknowledges the slime's presence and wonders if it will follow him forever. The slime indicates that it will, which makes Tuka realize that she has found her twin. Meanwhile, the blonde woman realizes that the group known as the White Walkers will never stop pursuing her. Resting for a while, Tuka opens the Book of Forbidden Arts and finds a passage about medicine that can strengthen a slime. She asks her pet slime if it will help her in her quest for revenge. Once she gets the confirmation she seeks, Tuka smiles and names the slime Pijimaru as her pet performs a little dance. Tuka vows to herself to use anything at her disposal to ruin the goddess. Meanwhile, The White Walkers approach the blonde woman, forcing her to stand her ground. She readies her sword, invoking spirits for aid as her presence draws nearer. But fate intervenes, and instead of reaching her, the men stumble upon Tuka standing alone in their path. Assessing him, they mock Tuka, calling him a delicate boy. One of them casually demands he hand over something of value if he wants to live, while the one known as Maggot smirks and insists on eliminating him anyway just to test his weapon. None of the others object, their minds already wandering to the girls they plan to harass later. Tuka raises his arm in protest and pretends to be a frightened hamster. This only inflates Maggot's ego further, and without hesitation he lunges at him. But Tuka is quick and activates her paralysis ability, easily subduing Maggot and making him realize that he is only useless against the goddess herself. The men freeze mid-motion, their bodies stiff as statues, their faces fixed in confused surprise. They are defenseless, and Tuka coldly tells them that they are nothing compared to the monster she fought in the ruins. Her pet slime expresses its anger toward the White Walkers and their dirty plans, allowing Tuka to make her decision. From now on, she will show no mercy simply because someone is human, for the enemy is the enemy, without exception. One by one, they fall to their deaths. After the usual looting of their bodies, Tuka senses someone nearby. At the same time, the blonde woman stops and feels a sudden change, as if the White Walkers that had been pursuing her have vanished. But another sensation washes over her, like the presence of someone mysterious and uneasy. She prepares to attack, only for the slime to hide and Tuka to paralyze her from behind. She approaches and calmly explains that she isn't there to hurt her, she just wants to talk. Using her ability, she releases her mouth from the spell, allowing her to speak while the rest of her body remains immobile. Before answering, she asks what happened to the 4 men who chased her. Tuka casually replies that they're probably getting their asses kicked in hell. The woman asks in surprise if he really took care of them all by himself. Tuka smiles weakly, but says nothing about her ally. She studies him for a moment and admits she believes him, which makes Tuka notice how calm and confident he sounds for someone trapped in a defenseless pose. After a few hushed questions, Tuka discovers something unsettling. He has crossed into a completely different realm. Curious, he pulls out the magic scroll he found in the ruins and asks if he can read it. She shakes her head but says she knows someone who might be the Witch of Taboos, a mysterious figure exiled to the land of the golden-eyed monsters. The woman then tells him she owes him her life, but Tuka thanks him for the information and says they're even. However, as he turns to leave, he realizes something else. Her gentleness and strange patience remind him of his aunt, the only truly kind person from his old life. He tells her she'll be free soon, wishes her a safe journey, and leaves without looking back. Pigemaru bounces after him, and Tuka explains quietly that he doesn't intend to kill people without reason, but they should be on their guard in case the woman decides to follow them. A few days later, Tuka arrives in Milltown, where the gatekeeper assumes he's just another village lout drawn by the allure of exploring the perilous ruins. Since they're desperate for extra help, he lets him through without even checking his luggage. Soon after, Tuka finds an inn, but the innkeeper stares at him as if he hears his wife calling him dad. His attitude quickly changes when Tuka gives him some silver, instantly transforming him into a kind soul. Once she's secured a room and clean clothes, Tuka decides to explore the city. The moment she spots the Adventurers Guild, she quickly turns away, determined not to let this become another stupid isekai plot. Later, Tuka treats herself to dinner, surrounded by drunken fools who shout secrets at each other as if it were happy hour. The opportunist she is, Tuka smiles, realizing she can use this to gather information on the best nightlife spots. As she begins to listen to their slurred chatter, she discovers that this continent is full of knights and armies strong enough to fight demons. They even mention some terrifying ones, but none seem as feared as the Black Dragon Knights, who seemingly wiped Nia's empire off the map. Tuka returns to the inn to feed Pigemaru, who devours his food without a care. While the slime chews, Tuka begins to reconstruct her next plan, which is to track down the Witch of Taboos to decipher forbidden spells. And there's also that monster-enhancing concoction she wants to test on Pigemaru. Then, Tuka remembers the drunken idiots gossiping about the mill's ruins, where a new floor had recently been discovered. His spellbook mentioned that the monster enhancement potion required the bones of a skeleton king, which, luckily for him, supposedly lurked in those very ruins. With his next destination clear, Tuka knew exactly where to go. The following day, the Marquis himself addressed the crowd and offered 300 gold coins to whoever retrieved the Dragon Eye Chalice. As an added bonus, any other treasure they unearthed would be theirs to keep, and monster parts counted too, which was a relief to Tuka. While queuing to register, Tuka notices a guy who definitely needs to betray his barber. This weirdo starts bothering a hooded lady, claiming he's actually the former paladin captain of some kingdom. The crowd whispers, wondering if this could be Saras, the former captain of the fallen Nia Empire. The certified nice guy, Monk, insists he knows her after all, since she supposedly turned down his dinner invitation once. The woman coldly denies ever having met him, which makes Monk sneer as he tells her he'd never forget a bad girl with a chubby attribute. When she continues to deny it, Monk points to his ears, stating that only an elf could look so good. He then yanks down her hood, revealing perfectly normal human ears. Stunned, Monk staggers backward, wondering what kind of sorcery just happened. She plays it cool and introduces herself as Mist, prompting the viewer to chuckle at him for making such a scene. Embarrassed and angry, Monk vows to become more like Sigma after taking a course from Kai Tsinat. Later, while Tuka is buying supplies before entering the ruins, Mist crosses her path again and casually asks if she also plans to answer the Marquise's summons. Tuka responds vaguely and warns him about the bitter, psychopathic blonde from earlier, who clearly reeked of suppressed anger. Tuka then notices that Mist seems to avoid human contact in general, wanting to get close to the girl with D-cup waifu-sized weapons. Tuka asks Mist to help him gather exploration equipment, and he'll pay him for his trouble. The intermediary, Mist, agrees, and they quickly exchange aliases. Tuka scoffs at their introductions, but they realize they both have secrets to protect. Together, they wander through the market, where Mist skillfully negotiates good prices for Tuka's equipment. Impressed, Tuka hands her 3 silver coins, and surprised by his generosity, Mist thanks her, but Tuka shrugs, pretending to be richer than Elon Musk. As she turns to leave, Mist suddenly trips and collapses into Tuka's arms. Tuka raises an eyebrow, commenting that she seems unsteady, but Mist insists she's fine and runs off. After losing the girl, Tuka heads to the mill's ruins. At the entrance, he watches 2 frightened mercenaries run past him, pursued by small ox demons. But to Tuka, these creatures are nothing compared to the monsters of the scrap ruins. Another mercenary arrives to finish off the ox, but freezes when he finds it already dead from a single dagger blow. Confused, he leaves, not understanding anything, but Tuka smiles, realizing that the monsters in these ruins are all weak as hell. On the way, Tuka overhears Monk conspiring with assassins, hiring them to eliminate the hooded woman as revenge for embarrassing him. The shower dodger rants that just knowing Mist is breathing makes him want to walk on Legos, which prompts the assassins to joke about deceiving her by having her body first. Monk enthusiastically agrees, calling her nothing more than a delectable actress. That's when Tuka enters and calls them the lowest filth to ever walk the earth. The weapons are drawn, but Tuka calmly raises her hand, pleading for mercy. Monk sneers and lunges to strike, but is paralyzed. Monk vows revenge, but Tuka simply laughs at the poisoned fool about to be devoured by a giant monster. Later, Tuka reaches the penultimate floor and sets up camp before entering the newly discovered section. After a short nap, she continues onward and encounters some people heading in the opposite direction. They report that monsters keep turning up pale and mysteriously dead, and no one knows why. To avoid losing teammates, they're retreating, offering Tuka the chance to join them. He politely declines, and they wish him luck, advising him to warn the others. Tuka smiles, knowing he's the reason behind the mysterious deaths, and hopes the news will spread and scare off the competition. He finally reaches the top floor and discovers a hidden chamber with the dragon eye chalice glowing inside. Smiling mockingly, Tuka clings to himself as the statue prepares to attack. With a kick to its feet, he paralyzes and poisons it. Once he's finished with the poor statue, he quickly steals the chalice. As Tuka turns to leave, she encounters Mist, who is surprised to have found him there. He offers her the chalice when she asks what he wants in return, and he simply tells her to get some sleep. Mist insists he can't accept it for free, but Tuka explains that the chalice wasn't his true objective before revealing a hidden door leading to greater subterranean depths. When Tuka says she's hunting a particular monster, Mist offers to protect her in exchange for the chalice and swears not to hinder her. Seeing that she won't back down, Tuka agrees on 2 conditions: that she won't pry into each other's secrets, and that if she wants to return early, she'll be alone. Mist agrees and gets to work by taking down the monster for Tuka. Curious, Tuka asks about the golden-eyed creatures, and Mist explains that, according to legend, the Demon King's power seeps into nearby monsters, turning them golden-eyed and savage. This makes Tuka silently wonder if Takuto's golden glow was a warning sign. They're resting in a chamber when Mist senses a monster nearby. Tuka casually introduces Pigimaru, and then suggests they sleep before exhaustion sets in as she lies down. Tuka assigns Pigimaru the task of distracting her so she can cast a sleep spell on Mist to ensure she gets a good night's rest. Once she falls asleep, her form changes, revealing that Mist is actually the former Night Knight Captain Saras, Ashrain. Meanwhile, far away in the dark forest, the Black Dragon Knights find the corpses of the would-be assassins and wonder who managed to eliminate them for good without effort. Back at the ruins, Saras suddenly awakens and transforms into her human form. Tuka pretends to awaken at the same time so they can leave together. As they explore, a monster appears and reveals itself to be the Skeleton King. Tuka immediately senses that it is stronger than any other creature in the ruins, while Saras points out its weak point. The skeleton prepares to attack, and Saras activates a mysterious power, babbling about how this move is supposed to be a secret or the CIA will hand her over to the Illuminati. Tuka is fed up with the chatter and easily defeats the Skeleton King by shocking Saras. Afterward, Tuka finds the rare ingredient she needed for her potion. She promises to answer Saras' questions once they return to the surface. Before they leave, Piggymaru informs Tuka about a hidden object wrapped in magical cloth, which turns out to be an egg. Piggymaru insists they take it with them, as they can sell it to the Americans for $1,000. Meanwhile, the knights battle skeleton warriors, and one even loses a hand. Ayaka urges her group to stall, but Shugo recklessly charges ahead, joined by Takudo, who doesn't care if his classmates burn to death. Back at Mills, Saras hands over the Dragon Eye Chalice, while Tuka slips away unnoticed. Later, she meets up with him and mentions a reception tomorrow where he'll receive his reward, but Tuka then invites her to his room at 8 for a private chat. As they part ways, she thanks him again for the chalice. Later, while Piggymaru eats, Tuka finishes brewing a potion to enhance her enhancement spell. At 8 o'clock, Saras knocks on the door. Inside, Tuka offers her a job as her bodyguard, assuming she wants extra money if the chalice reward disappoints her. She explains that she's searching for the Witch of Taboos, anticipating monster attacks along the way, so a skilled swordswoman would be useful. She mentions that their paths cross, but Saras remains hesitant. Calling her by her real name catches Saras off guard. Tuka admits to using her sleep ability on herself and says she can no longer hide her identity if they are traveling together. Saras confesses that she uses spiritual power to conceal herself at the cost of sleep, and that she reverts to her true form when she rests. She also reveals how she was once pursued by the Holy Knights, but without them, she can relax a little. Tuka asks if she trusts him now that his true form is revealed. When she says yes, he shares his real name and asks her to keep it a secret, just as he will for her. Saras introduces herself properly and accepts the role of bodyguard as payment. Tuka gives her a blue crystal, surprising her since it's a rare blue dragon gem, much more valuable than the chalice. She tries to refuse, but Tuka dismisses it and feigns indifference, telling her she can throw it away if she wants, so she finally accepts. With that, Tuka suggests they use false names in public. Saras tries to confess that she's a fugitive, but Tuka ignores her and tells her that he can only offer verbal support, so if she's looking for moral support, she should get a diary. Later, while Saras is bathing, she smells herself and wonders how much she could earn selling her dirty bathwater, to which she thinks, "Shut up and take my money." Lying down, she decides to trust Tuka as she once trusted the princess. The next morning, they have lunch together while the mercenaries surrounding them joke about how Saras finally let a skinny guy explore her delicious cave. Tuka tells him to ignore the drunks, and when he asks about forbidden magic, Saras explains that it's prohibited by the goddess Visis. Upon hearing this, Tuka suspects it's because it threatens her power. Saras apologizes for not knowing more, but Tuka says her answer is sufficient, which makes her blush at her effortless charm. Saras guides him to his awards ceremony, promising to see him outside the inn, while Tuka heads into the forest to experiment with Piggymaru. At the ceremony, the Marquis brings in a specialist in shattering illusions to test the chalice, making Saras nervous. Meanwhile, Tuka worries about being late. Elsewhere, Ayaka meets with the goddess, and Visis agrees to heal the girl who lost her hand, but only because she's a Class B student. She then asks Ayaka if she'll join Takudo's group, but Ayaka refuses after witnessing Takudo's recklessness. The goddess scolds her for disrupting the class's unity, but then tasks Ayaka with training the failing students. When Ayaka protests, Visis reveals that the king has strictly ordered that any heroes unable to fight will be eliminated. Realizing that the students are doomed if she refuses, Ayaka reluctantly agrees. The goddess then warns her that failure might force her to do cruel things, as she has no other choice. Once Ayaka leaves, Visis mutters that she is tired of Ayaka's antics. Back at the inn, Tuka wonders if Saras has abandoned him. After Piggymaru suggests something else is going on, Tuka suspects trouble and leaves. Hearing that Saras has fled into the dark forest, she sees the Black Dragon, knights pursuing her. In the forest, Saras fights the knights, and although she attacks as well, she fights without her full power, weakened by the illusion breaker. After taking down another knight, she detects a sneak attack. The would-be gangster applauds her sharpness but warns Saras to prepare to die. Without her spiritual attire, Saras fights while the knight battles with twisted excitement. Finally, she slips, giving him the opportunity to immobilize her. With a lascivious look, he promises to give her his long tool for the delectable before sending her to the afterlife. Luckily, Tuka arrives in time and paralyzes him with a non-lethal poison. Saras then warns him that staying with her means a life on the run and offers to return his payment. But Tuka, being a Gucci boy, hands him a bag of jewelry and tells him to undress. Before Saras can say she chooses the bear, she explains that she'll have to change her clothes so people won't recognize her. Then, Tuka suggests they negotiate with the Witch of Taboos for refuge, since no one has discovered her whereabouts. When Saras asks why she would go to such lengths for her, Tuka explains that she reminds her of her aunt, who has the same aura. Tuka then summons the paralyzed dragon and approaches the knight, releasing his head. The man insists they won't get away with it, so Saras asks who exactly wants her dead. Excited to ruin his day, the knight begins to reveal the truth. But Tuka tells Saras to duck just as a sword flies through the air, killing the knight. Behind them are the 5 dragon knights led by humanity's strongest warrior, Civet Gartland. Tuka sweats, knowing Civet is the real deal. As they descend, Tuka notices a missing limb. Civet then casually reveals that the person who wants Saras dead is an old man named Ortola. Apparently, Ortola initially let Saras go, but then couldn't bear the thought of her having the full rural college experience, so now he wants her dead. Saras can't believe what she's hearing, but Civet ignores her and focuses his attention on the man beside her. The Dragon Knights debate what to do with Saras, as Ortola left the decision to them. One suggests passing her off as a vaporizer, but another reminds him that Ortola wants her corpse returned to him pure. Suddenly, Civet grants him the right to duel, promising that if he wins, he will live. However, he quickly loses interest and says he likes the boy next to him better. Tuka knows that one wrong move could be the end for him, as Civet is even more terrifying than the Soul Eater, and neither of them is within the range of his power. Even so, Tuka smiles and steps forward, asking to talk. She introduces herself, but Civet can tell it's an alias and wonders why she would hide her identity. A teammate asks her why she's wasting her time on a nobody, but Civet. She notes that Tuka shows no fear and is only looking for an opportunity to attack. In her mind, Tuka praises Civet for being so intelligent and asks if it's true that he's looking for an enemy who can truly satisfy him. When Civet confirms it, Tuka points to the presence of powers like the goddess. Civet explains that his land has a pact with the goddess, but he has high hopes for the heroes she summoned, who are rapidly increasing their strength. Tuka notes that Civet's ego is bigger than Drake's flute. Meanwhile, at the Citadel, Civet will deliver Saras' head to someone named Princess Katleya of Nea when she attempts to escape. He is informed that she is the reason they invaded his land, just as his goddess requested, but the old king refused. Tuka quickly devises a plan to outwit him. She steps forward and offers herself as an enemy who could threaten his life, piquing the knight's interest. She reminds Civet that heroes level up quickly and reveals that she is one of them. All the knights are shocked, including Saras. Civet is excited as everything begins to make sense and asks why Tuka is in a place like this. Tuka then explains that the goddess allowed her to act independently because she is different from the others. When Civet asks why Tuka would act separately from the rest of the heroes, Tuka says she's in a completely different league, which technically isn't a lie. However, Civet interprets Tuka's actions as meaning she's too strong, and that the goddess is letting him do pointless side quests. Seeing Civet's interest, Tuka asks for his pardon now so she can grow strong enough to defeat him. He promises to gain enough power to trample even the goddess herself. Civet asks how exactly Tuka plans to do this, and Tuka says she's heading to the land of monsters since the goddess granted her freedom. Civet accepts the plan and suggests they fight to the death when Tuka is at her strongest. Tuka readily agrees. When Civet mentions Saras' fate, Tuka says they need to forgive her so she can reach the land of the golden-eyed monsters and become stronger. Civet is amused by Tuka's arrogance and agrees to forgive Saras as well, then flies off thinking about his next match. Tuka can't believe the idiot fell for it. Now that they're within range, she uses her paralysis ability, catching Civet off guard, and the whole group collapses. Tuka tells Civet that he's more evil than Keiru from Redo of Healer, though a little less mischievous, as Civet manages to get to his feet and asks what Tuka has planned. Tuka says she's getting rid of the passives by poisoning them. While the other knights writhe in pain, Sivit draws his sword. Tuka recalls how the Soul Eater forced himself to move while paralyzed, but how Sivit was useless. Tuka activates a new power, preparing herself for anything until she sees Sivit die. Suddenly, a signal for reinforcements is heard. Tuka tells Saras she can run if she wants, but Saras insists she stay and watch. Sivit warns the reinforcements to attack from the sky and not to approach. Meanwhile, Tuka explains two problems with her new ability. It takes too long to activate and it burns magic points. Tuka merges with Pigimaru, sending tentacles upward to paralyze the knights. Then she puts Sivit and the others to sleep, unlocking new abilities like Dark, which blocks their sight, and Berserk, which makes them violent. As the dragons die, Tuka levels up and cannon fodder rains down. However, Sivit continues fighting and asks who the hell he is. Tuka replies that he's simply an Avenger, and Sivit finally meets his end. Meanwhile, the rest of the heroes encounter a representative of the goddess who asks them to follow her. When Shugo starts to get in her way, she calls him out to demonstrate their difference in strength. This makes Ayaka wonder how she's so fast. A Twitch streamer tells them they're returning to the royal capital for the next stage. Back in the forest, Tuka tells Saras his whole story. Saras agrees to accompany him on his quest for revenge to repay his debt and probably to have sex with him. With that, the two reach an agreement and leave the ruins of dispossession. A couple of guards find a reliquary and discuss whether this will be reported to the kingdom of Aelion. One of the guards reasons with the others, stating that the ruins of dispossession have a 0% survival rate, so it's highly unlikely a prisoner sent there would leave alive. Elsewhere, Tuka buys a mask known as the Lord of the Flies from a gypsy vendor, who reveals that this mask was made in memory of a demon king who protected his subjects but was banished for not being evil enough. Meanwhile, back in her shop, Saras wonders if she should indulge in moments of self-indulgence while thinking about Tuka. She changes her mind and admits to herself that she doesn't want to get caught up in feelings because love is more complicated than algebra. Back inside, Tuka puts on her new mask and, realizing that the appearance of a demon suits her better than that of a hero, thinks of Vysis, renewing her resolve to take her to the afterlife. The following morning, a holy alliance is forged between several kingdoms. Among the members is, of course, the goddess Vysis, who learns that someone or something eliminated humanity's strongest, Sivit, Gartland, and her Black Dragon Knights. She then addresses the Holy Alliance, admitting that Sivit's death has caused them great harm, as they were planning to use him and the Dragon Knights as a spear against the Demon Emperor. This only means that the heroes she summoned are extremely valuable. Jameer the Mad King instantly realizes Vysis' plan and recognizes that once evil descends upon the world, other nations will have no choice but to seek Aelion's aid. Suddenly, Sigmas, a member of the Holy Alliance, learns that a group in Urza admits to having defeated the dragons. This group of sorcerers is known as the Ashant. Meanwhile, Saras informs Tuka that they will soon arrive in the Golden Demon Zone. They encounter a building known as the Bloody Coliseum, an arena where slaves and mercenaries fight to the death. While Tuka is thinking about Rome, Saras informs her that the Duke of Urza and the Mercenary Guild rule the Bloody Coliseum. Passing by an inn, Tuka proceeds to book 2 rooms, but Saras insists they share just one, as it will save her money. Tuka turns to her, reminding Saras that she's a man with a functional penis. Blushing slightly, Saras tells Tuka that she has no problem with that, so they end up choosing a single room. Later, they arrive at a pub for a bite to eat when a group of drunks argue about the deaths of the Dragon Knights, claiming that Saras was the one who eliminated them. Another disagrees, stating that it was actually Ashant, the group of sorcerers. Upon hearing the name for the first time, Tuka asks Saras about it, who reveals that Ashint worships the god of the curse. Suddenly, a group of hooded men calling themselves Ashinto arrive at the pub to inform the crowd that they are protectors of Magi, the offspring of the god of the curse, and therefore should be given good seats. Judging them from afar, Tuka notices that the Ashint look like a bunch of clowns pleasuring themselves. But if they're the ones who have to take the blame for killing Sivit and his Dragon Knights, then all is well. While the drunks talk about the Forbidden Witch, Tuka decides to join in. She offers the men some drinks to loosen them up. She soon learns that the witch once fought in the Bloody Coliseum. Suddenly, a leopard woman enters, and the men inform Tuka that he's seeing the strongest fighter in the Bloody Coliseum. Taking advantage of the opportunity, Tuka introduces himself to the leopard using a false name, revealing his true name as Eve Speed. When he tries to flatter the fighter, Eve tells him to be upfront about what he wants, and Tuka quickly inquires about the infamous witch. Eve admits she's never met her and then asks why he's so interested in her. Tuka lies, saying his dream is to become a scholar, which is why he wants to learn more about these mysterious figures. Eve tells Tuka that the place he's heading to isn't suitable for survival and advises him to focus on getting a girl and forget about his pursuit of the Forbidden Witch. However, Saras later informs Tuka that everything Eve said was a lie, meaning she knows exactly where the Forbidden Witch is. Upon arriving at the inn, Tuka uses her mana pouch to give Pigimaru some food. When Saras tastes some, she instantly comes up with a guess, and Tuka is captivated by her beauty. She then tells her they should start thinking about their next plan. Saras states that they should meet tomorrow and get Eve's speed to talk. Tuka asks what the fighter would value most, and Saras reveals it will be money because that's how they can buy their freedom from their masters. A few hours later, Tuka decides to take a bath while Saras sniffs her clothes, savoring her scent. That night, while Saras sleeps, Tuka studies her face and realizes how she is sacrificing her own emotions to play the role of her bodyguard. Suddenly, Saras awakens and offers Tuka some medicinal herbs to help him sleep better. Once they finish the tea, Saras asks if she has resisted her temptations. Tuka admits that she has, as revenge is her top priority. Understanding this, Saras bows and agrees to help him in his quest. Morning arrives, and the duo discovers that Eve arrived as a slave and quickly earned her reputation as a skilled fighter. After several battles, tomorrow will be her final fight before becoming a free citizen. Saras informs Tuka, although Eve had enough money to become a free woman, she chose not to so she could continue fighting and free a young girl. She also shared with him a rumor that a fighter always loses his life in his last match because the masters of the coliseum never want their slaves to be freed. According to Saras, Tuka adds that since Eve's speed is the strongest fighter, management would never want to release her. When she asks if she intends to intervene tomorrow, Tuka grimly tells her that they shouldn't wait until tomorrow. Intercepting Eve's speed, Tuka asks her if she owes a debt to the Forbidden Witch, which is why she refuses to reveal her whereabouts. Eve quickly denies it, but Saras appears, saying she's lying again. Now on guard, Eve draws her sword and asks Tuka what she really wants. He responds by saying he only wants to help, and reveals that the Duke will have her killed tomorrow. Still suspicious of a thin man, Eve insists on knowing why they are helping her, which leads Tuka to admit that she will be a nuisance if she dies, since only she knows the location of the Forbidden Witch. To demonstrate her strength, Tuka also tells her that she can always kidnap the girl she is caring for. This infuriates the leopard, but Saras quickly says that they know all about her situation and that she has been fighting for a girl named Liz. Finally, Eve vents her frustrations and thanks them for sharing the information, but confesses that she can't escape tomorrow's bloody fight. When Tuka asks why they can't simply kidnap Liz and escape, Eve states that they can't escape the system and will eventually be hunted down. Tuka, however, insists that she knows a place which turns out to be the Forbidden Witch's lair, but Eve tells her that it's impossible to reach the depths of the lair where the witch resides. Wanting to be sure, Tuka promises to protect Liz with his life, only for Eve to ask what an insignificant person like him can possibly do. Feeling underestimated, Tuka tells Eve that he was the one who eliminated the Dragon Knights, but she refuses to believe it. Then, Tuka demonstrates his power by paralyzing Eve, which takes her completely by surprise. At that moment, Saras reveals her elven form, and Eve instantly recognizes her as Saras, the former leader of the Knights of the disbanded Kingdom of Nea. Seeing such incriminating evidence, Eve acknowledges Tuka as someone capable of protecting both her and Liz. However, despite everything, Eve tells Tuka that she doesn't trust him enough to go with him. When she asks how she can trust her slave owner, the Duke admits that he has always been well compensated by his master. Sighing, Tuka tells her that she will pay dearly for her kindness and leaves, saying that they will depart at dawn in case she changes her mind. That night, Eve is tormented by doubts and decides to investigate the Duke. She sneaks out and overhears him talking to his servant about how he will give her an anesthetic poison before the fight, so that she will die in the arena. And once she's dead, she'll be skinned for her pelt. When the servant asks what he intends to do with the dark elf girl, the Duke reveals his true nature and admits that he tricked the leopard when Eve was no longer there to care for her. Enraged, Eve chases her to her room, where she encounters Maji, an Ashinto commander, who wishes her good luck for the next day's battle. Using the night as camouflage, Eve escapes and meets up with Tuka and Saras, admitting that they were right after all. With unwavering faith, he tells them he will reveal the Forbidden Witch's hiding place once they have finished kidnapping Liz. Meanwhile, inside a pub, Liz is being beaten by the fat owner, while a customer tries to take advantage of her. Instead of reacting, Liz silently accepts the abuse and thinks of Eve for comfort. Once the customer leaves, the fat owner proceeds to harass Liz even more when suddenly the door bursts open, revealing Eve. Just as Eve is about to strike him down with her sword, the woman begs for mercy, revealing that it was actually the Duke who entrusted her with the task of disciplining Liz. Ignoring her, Eve apologizes to Liz for dragging her on another trip, but Liz smiles, happy to be with her older sister. Suddenly, Tuka appears wearing that hideous Lord of the Flies mask. She punches the wall hard and then strokes Liz, assuring her that she isn't with the Illuminati. Once Eve and Liz leave, Tuka confronts the bar owner and tells her that she could have deceived Eve, but he sees through her sweet words. The bar owner reveals her true nature and vows to send Eve and Liz to the gallows. At that moment, Tuka states that when she punched the wall, she realized the woman didn't even flinch, meaning she must be used to hitting others. She expresses how much she hates bullies and then teaches the wicked woman a lesson by paralyzing and poisoning her. Once she's finished with the wretched woman, Tuka leaves and rejoins the rest of the group. This time, she introduces herself properly, revealing her real name. Liz greets her and begs Tuka to let her join them on their journey. However, Tuka warns him that the journey ahead will be dangerous. Liz accepts the challenge, stating that as long as he's with Eve, he'll overcome any obstacle. Recognizing his determination, Tuka welcomes him aboard. On the way, Eve asks Tuka if he plans to assassinate the Forbidden Witch. He replies that he only wants her help, prompting Eve to admit that she can now trust him with her life. When asked why, he states that he could have used evil methods to make her obey, but he didn't. Shortly after their journey, Tuka and the others noticed two groups of people pursuing them. One was the Duke's group, and the other was a Shinto's. Just outside the forest, Maji observed the trap set for him and his clowns, and told Tuka and her gang to simply submit, as he had figured out their little scheme. Wearing a mask, Saras entered Maji's vision and asked him if she was the Fly swordswoman, the Lord of the Flies' subordinate. He also tells her that he doesn't really care about her since he only wants Eve and Liz. Saras asks what happens if she refuses. With a smile, Maji states that they will sacrifice a goat, bathe her in its blood, and place a horrible curse on her, causing her hair to grow like a man's. To further threaten Saras, Maji also claims that he was the one who eliminated the Dragon Knights. Having heard enough, Saras tells Maji to take care of Eve and Liz. Maji agrees, and Saras tries to guide him toward the forest. While her followers continue to follow Saras, Maji tells them to stop, stating that she knows Eve and Liz have no intention of returning. Curious, Saras asks Maji why she thinks that way, and he reveals that she asked him to have everyone follow her when just a few would have been enough to stop Eve and Liz. This leads to the conclusion that she's trying to put them within range where she and her partner can easily eliminate them. After explaining her reasoning, Maji tells her henchmen to prepare for the attack, prompting Saras to ask why they're using arrows when they're known for their supposed curses. Maji smiles and says that the Ashinto soldiers are the successors of the Assassin's Guild. Upon closer inspection, Saras notices that the arrows are contaminated with poison, which Maji confirms, revealing their advanced knowledge of poisons. Saras calls them frauds for deceiving people by lying about how they curse others. Maji happily admits to the accusations and further reveals how they stumbled upon the corpses of the Dragon Knights, taking all the credit for it. Now, curious, Saras asks Maji about her endgame and gleefully announces that she wants to take over the country. She then asks Saras where her companions are. Maji lies and says that only she, Eve, and Liz are there. To back up her lie, she removes her mask, revealing herself to Maji as the famous Saras. She also claims that she was the one who killed Civet and the Dragon Knights. But Maji isn't fooled and says that she isn't strong enough to fight Civet. She then summons two members of Ashinto and reveals that they are the strongest fighters in her group. Furthermore, her brother Zeresh was a member of the White Walkers that she and her companion killed, so now he will suffer their wrath. However, Maji adds that since she has that Latina mama's body, he's going to baptize her with his sacred enamel first. He orders Saras to kneel, which she reluctantly does while waiting for Tuka to arrive soon and save her. In a matter of seconds, Tuka fires a long-range paralyzing attack that freezes Maji and his gunners in place. With that, he poisons Maji, revealing that this was his plan all along. He was the one who sent Saras to make it appear as if he was deliberately leading them all through the forest so he could have arrogant thoughts of having crushed his opponents. Once Maji is dead, Saras brings Eve and Liz out to face the next group. This time, Saras stays with Liz while Eve joins Tuka for the action. As the Duke's group prepares to attack, Tuka realizes she can no longer use poison, having overused her ability. She uses the darkness ability to block their vision, while Eve does the bloody work. One by one, the Duke's soldiers fall and die, and he finally meets his creator through Eve's speed. Upon returning to the bodies of the Ashinto soldiers, Tuka uses a freezing ability on them, and then shatters the ice, causing them to vanish forever. Meanwhile, in the capital, Ayaka receives sword training from the Gothic villainess, who warns her never to show weakness in this world. The next morning, Tuka gives Liz a dress that makes her happy, while Saras suggests they start calling themselves the Lord of the Flies Brigade. Tuka agrees. They arrive at the location and Eve uses magic to unlock the key and reveal the Forbidden Witch's location. In Alien, Visus introduces the heroes to 4 representatives from different realms to serve as their mentors. Later, he confides in Neonton that he plans to send the heroes to the Golden Demon Zone so they can level up. The next day, Liz insists on being helpful by carrying everyone's luggage. Seeing himself reflected in Liz, Tuka pats her head and tells her to take it easy. They resume their journey, and Tuka and her group encounter a Liseo, a demon that looks exactly like the monster in the Ruins of Elimination. After neutralizing it, Tuka tells Eve that this monster is much weaker compared to the one she found in the Ruins of Elimination. Then, using her Book of Knowledge, she proceeds to extract the monster's parts, which will help her create forbidden objects. When Saras looks at the book curiously, Tuka allows her to keep it, as she plans to banish her access to it once her thirst for revenge subsides. As the pressure mounts, Eve absent-mindedly wonders what it would be like if Tuka and Saras each had a little demon of their own. While Tuka remains indifferent as always, Saras, overcome with excitement, ends up falling into the river. Suddenly, Eve senses a monster and informs Tuka, revealing that this is the monster that forced her and Liz to flee its territory. Calmly, Tuka tells her to go back and let Dad handle everything. She smiles at the sight of the gigantic monsters and instantly paralyzes them. Then, using Berserk, he finishes off the monster, causing it to level up and observe everything from afar. Eve tells him that he seemed so confident that she had encountered that monster before. Tuka states that the monster's name is Anazart, and then proceeds to cut it down, leading Eve to think that it has become Asian. However, Saras assures her that she isn't cutting up the monster to eat it, but because it was mentioned in the Book of Forbidden Arts. Suddenly, the gang finds out, and Eve quickly tells Tuka that she can sense a demonic but unique presence. While everyone is on guard, ready for whatever the monster is coming for, Pigamaru informs Tuka that the negative energy is coming from her bag. Upon further inspection, Tuka learns that the egg she brought is about to hatch. Suddenly, the egg breaks and a horse leaps out. As the horse begins to love Tuka, Saras, now a horse girl, pets the creature and finds a mana-absorbing stone. She tells Tuka that this is one of the characteristics found in magical beasts and creatures. Upon learning this, Tuka begins pouring her mana into the horse, transforming it into a powerful black horse. Pouring in a little more mana further transforms the horse into an abomination with the potential to bring about the end of the world. However, Tuka decides to name him Slay, welcoming him as the newest member of her eccentric team. Meanwhile, the heroes of Visus also arrive in the same jungle where Tuka and her friends are. Takuto is displeased by the lack of progress because he wants to prove to everyone that he is the Roman Reigns of this world. That night, the new trainers tour the area and tell the heroes to stay back because they're too pathetic to face the saber-toothed tiger. An angry Takuto tells everyone that this is his moment and he won't be left behind at all. As the trainers face some monsters, Takuto enters the fight and uses a skill called Dragonic Buster to defeat all the saber-toothed tigers. Once the monsters have been dealt with, he tells everyone to respect his name, the future king. Meanwhile, in the jungle, sisters Hijiri and Itsuki defeat some hooded men. Hijiri deduces that the men were sent by the goddess to eliminate them. Tuka and the gang decide to rest for the night. In the morning, Saras wakes up and discovers that Tuka is gone. Eve assures her that Tuka isn't like her father, who would leave without a word. Upon leaving the cave, Eve and Saras find Tuka dismembering another monstrous corpse, acting as an illegal organ supplier. As they resume their journey deeper into the Golden Demon Zone, Tuka asks Liz if she's afraid. Liz honestly replies that Saras assured her they'd be fine as long as he's with them. Hearing this, Tuka realizes his companions are perhaps a little too trusting. This makes him happy and gives him the confidence to face anything. After reaching an entrance, a loudmouthed demon suddenly appears. Eve acts quickly and kills it before it can harm her. However, with its last breath, the demon lets out a loud shriek. Tuka feels a strange unease and then senses a demonic horde heading toward them. As the jungle animals fly to safety, Tuka realizes that the demons Eve killed scream to attract other demons, so she might have one last go at them. While Tuka grows nervous about dealing with such a massive horde of demons, Eve steps forward and declares she will act as bait to lure the demons to her so the rest can make it to the Forbidden Witch's location safely. Believing her sacrifice will save her comrades' lives, Eve assures Liz that everything will be alright as long as she behaves like a good girl and listens to Saras and Tuka. Suddenly, Tuka coldly tells Eve that she won't accept her offer, so she'd better start acting as a shield. As Eve prepares, Tuka asks if she really thinks he'll let her sacrifice herself, especially knowing she won't survive this stampede. He assures her that none of this was his fault. Saras chimes in, telling Eve that if it had been her, she too would have rushed to cut down the beast that was charging at them. However, being a stubborn cat, Eve tries to stick to her plan of sacrifices, but Tuka reminds her that she's an important person in this whole expedition, since the witch entrusted her with her location. After telling him all this, Tuka pulls out the Lord of the Flies mask and a magic stone, hoping the plan in his head will somehow work. He then tells the rest of the gang that he alone has the best chance of surviving since he'll be receiving help from Pigamaru and Slay. Finally, Tuka seals the verdict by stating that, as the Big Daddy, they must stay out of it and obey his orders. Saras tries to speak, but Tuka gives her a look that makes her Hello Kitty underwear wet enough for her to kneel and obey. Tuka then tells Saras that if she doesn't return, it's her responsibility to carry out the mission. Elsewhere in the jungle, the hero class finds itself right in the heart of the conflict. While the boys play Fruit Ninja with the monsters, Kobato does everything he can to rescue his teammates despite his own fear. Back with Tuka, he puts Slay to work, unleashing his third and most powerful form while using Pigamaru to lure the monster horde toward them. As the chase begins, Tuka thinks of his comrades, realizing he truly doesn't know if he'll survive this ordeal. However, with no other option but to press on, Tuka smiles, ready to face whatever lies ahead. Meanwhile, a couple of monsters applaud the NPC heroes to death. As usual, Ayaka overreacts. She tries to ask Yasu how they died since they were in his party, and the former weakling coldly reveals that, being a high-ranking hero, he used other beta heroes as a shield. When Ayaka tries to lecture him about his poor morals and his duty to his classmates, Yasu loses his temper and yells at her for continuing to look down on him. He tells Ayaka that it goes against the hierarchy and it shouldn't matter if a couple of low-level heroes fall and die. However, Ayaka insists that as someone strong, she should protect the weak, not use them as stepping stones. Yasu remains stubborn and mockingly calls Ayaka the evil version of Mother Teresa, reminding her how the NPCs who died were cheering for the goddess as she sentenced Tuka to death. In the midst of his manic outburst, Shugo and Takuto arrive, calling Yasu scum for behaving so filthy. Takuto takes it a step further, pointing his sword at Yasu and reminding him that while the goddess may have elevated him for the rest of his life, he's still just a cockroach. Enraged, Yasu prepares to attack, telling Takuto he should never have interfered and that he's only taking down Ayaka because she hasn't yet unlocked her inherent ability. This proves that ranks mean nothing, as many higher-ranked heroes haven't unlocked their inherent abilities while lower-ranked heroes have. Now, equally enraged, Shugo is about to unleash a demon Targaryen on Yasu when Takuto tells him to back down, forgetting his position. Shugo asks if he's afraid, but a single glance from the Golden Boy subdues him. As Yasu walks away, Takuto tells Ayaka she's giving these rankers a bad name and leaves, leaving Ayaka to grieve. However, she snaps back to reality when she overhears some girls saying that Kobato has disappeared. Meanwhile, Eve shares her plan to join Tuka in the battle. Saras asks why she doubts her Big Daddy, and Eve reveals that since they entered the demon zone, Tuka has been the one staying awake and protecting them all, so she's not even at her best right now. They reflect on how she's been using her ability to sleep with them so they can get a good night's rest. With that said, Eve tells Saras and Liz that she's the best candidate to help Tuka since not only is she strong, but her keen senses will aid Tuka at night. And if either she or the horse get hurt, only she can bring them back. Understanding Eve, Saras accepts, while Eve observes that Saras doesn't deny the accusations that he has fallen madly in love with Tuka. Meanwhile, deep in the forest, Tuka recalls Erwin Smith's Shiganshina speech and fights the demons head-on. Unfortunately, nature decides to further hinder him by dulling his vision and senses with rain. However, despite all the difficulties, Tuka presses on and manages to defeat a humanoid monster, allowing him to level up. He then goes full Tom Cruise against his enemies. Besides, Kobato feels sorry for her party when Eve stumbles upon her. Seeing her so sad reminds her of Liz and tries to help her when that idiot Itsuki arrives and tries to yell at Eve, thinking she's there to hurt Kobato. Sitting in her safe spot, Liz worries about Tuka and Eve's safety, unaware that her older sister is about to be killed off because some fool wants to play the hero. Saras, being foolish, herself assures Liz that Tuka will be fine since she has abs, and gave them her word that she'll return safe and sound. Elsewhere, Itsuki engages Eve in a fight, and just as she's about to deliver a fatal blow, Hijiri arrives and stops her. When asked why she interfered, Hijiri reveals that Eve isn't a demon but a Leopardkin. Itsuki asks why this matters, and Hijiri explains that Leopardkin possess great intelligence. With that, she apologizes to Eve for Itsuki's outburst and behavior. Eve watches them silently as Hijiri bombards her with questions, trying to understand why she's standing there like a mute and what a bloodthirsty fighter like her is doing in the demon zone. Eve finally opens her mouth, revealing that she is searching for her master, which intrigues Hijiri even more. He asks her why she believes her master would have survived the stampede. Eve remains silent, not wanting the heroes from another world to know about Tuka. Instead, she leaves, leaving Hijiri more curious than ever. Meanwhile, Tuka finishes off the demons and notices that both Pijimaru and Slay are exhausted. He understands his companion's condition and tells them to rest while he assesses the damage to his body. Tuka notices that even though he's reached level 200, his wounds and stamina aren't recovering. However, he can't rest as he senses a humanoid monster heading straight for him. The chase begins, and this monster proves overwhelming for Tuka as well. He devises a strategy and asks Pigimaru for one last favor. Using him and his mask, Tuka distracts the monster and then attacks it with his paralysis ability. Once the monster can't move, he quickly unleashes his poison ability, killing the only remaining enemy. The status informs Tuka that he has unlocked a superior ability. While curious, Tuka's body finally gives way, reminding him that he is, after all, a human being with limitations. Suddenly, a low-level monster leaps at him, but before it can harm him, Eve arrives in time and saves his master, saying he's glad to have him as a comrade. Tuka finally collapses on top of Eve, who carries not only him, but also Pigimaru Yaslay. Along the way, Eve even runs into Itsuki, Hijiri, and Kobato. When he asks if he told them about him, Eve quickly denies it. Tuka acknowledges his cleverness, stating that it's better for the heroes to believe he's dead. Regrouping with Saras and Liz, Tuka finally allows herself to relax. That night, Saras offers her sacred thighs for Tuka to sleep on. As he accepts, Saras expresses concern for him and how he overdoes it. Tuka smiles, knowing she's worried, but assures Saras he'll be fine. They exchange ages so both parties know they're legal, and the FBI won't get involved later. The next morning, the gang resumes their journey when Saras tells Tuka she has something to say but hasn't yet mustered the courage. She asks Tuka to wait, and Tuka dismisses her, coldly saying she will. Deep down, she already knows. Saras is heading to Fingertown as she thinks of him. They soon come across an area covered in magical seals. Before they can react, a golem tries to intercept them, but Tuka uses a paralyzing skill attack to stop it. Once the golem is out of the way, the gang begins exploring the area and realizes they are finally close to their goal. Meanwhile, the sisters return Kobato to her group, and Ayaka is overjoyed to see her safe and sound. Having completed her task, Hijiri tells Itsuki that she was right to believe the men who killed them last night were sent to assassinate the heroes so that Ayaka's spirit would break, allowing the goddess to do as she pleases without anyone to hold her accountable. Meanwhile, Tuka pours an insane amount of mana into a magic orb, finally unlocking the last gate. He is then greeted by the most alluring villainess, also known as Ayaka the Forbidden Witch. Upon seeing her, Tuka is once again filled with the determination to give the goddess what she deserves until he sees the gates of heaven. Do you think Tuka will achieve his goal? We'll find out in the next installment of the anime. If you want more like this, comment more, and I'll get to work.